Hi, my name is Dr. Justin Didomenico, and I'm a Senior Vice President of School Consultation and a BCBA-D with Brett Denovi & Associates. Today I'd like to talk about motivating operations. When we talk about motivating operations, or MOs, we are talking about something that alters the value of the reinforcer, something that changes and makes it more or less valuable. And that alters also the current frequency of a behavior that's been reinforced or punished in the past. We can talk about establishing operations and abolishing operations as both types of MOs. So you have an establishing operation, which increases the value of a stimulus as a reinforcer, or an abolishing operation that makes the stimulus less valuable. So when you talk about using an establishing operation, we're saying that it makes it a more valuable stimulus. Let me give you an example. Today, it was a rather hot day. I got in my car and I turned on my air conditioner. And I turned it up full blast for about the first 10 minutes. At that point, cold air is an establishing operation. It makes that stimulus of cold air valuable. And then what happens after about 10 minutes? No longer valuable because you're now freezing. And so then you turn the air back up. And now that, basically what was a reinforcing stimulus of cold air is now aversive. So now it's an abolishing operation because now you're trying to reduce the cold air. So if you think about your day, you're constantly trying to mediate these contingencies throughout the day. You're comfortable in one circumstance, not in another. We also have, in addition to just the value, we have the frequency or the occurrences of certain behaviors when we talk about evocative and abative behavior, which talks about the frequency of behaviors. An evocative effect increases the current likelihood of a behavior. For example, the frequency of asking for dinner when deprived food for a long period of time. If I get home and I'm very hungry, I might be saying, when's dinner? Or my kids more likely are saying, when's dinner? When's dinner? Until they actually get access to food, since they're very hungry. Or an abative effect decreases the current likelihood of a behavior. So it's not just about value, but it's how frequently that behavior is occurring. So for example, after my children have eaten dinner, they're less likely to ask for dinner because they're now full and they have a full stomach, probably not likely to ask for food. And I can think about EOs and AO causes, what causes it? So establishing operations can make something more valuable typically when you're deprived of it, when there's an increase in pain and you want to remove that pain, or unmet needs. And with AOs, typically things that make it less valuable are satiation. You've had too much of it, or you're full, or you've had too much of the same item. The reduction in pain, if there's no longer pain occurring. And then overexposure to stimuli. Sometimes being on something for a very long time makes it less valuable. You can think about with watching TV or maybe screen time on a phone. I hope this information was valuable. If you'd like to help us to continue to disseminate the science, please like and subscribe.
Bye.